I mean, look, James Gunn has created a new record in being prejudged before he even shoots a millimetre of film for people to see what he's going to do with DC. It's amazing to me. I mean, he's been confusing the audience, confusing the fans, interfering with DCEU projects where there was no need to do that because all he had to do was a clean reboot. It's like watching Saffron and Gunn is a bit like watching Laurel and Hardy. The decisions they're making don't make any sense. And I've already questioned the appointment of Peter Saffron, a man who was part of the Hamada regime, being part of the new regime. And it proves it, that the people who were involved before are still involved now. And I'll repeat this again. This is why when they did that DC documentary, they refused to put any Snyder Cut footage in it and put Justice League footage in it instead. So anyway, yesterday something dynamite broke about James Gunn. Some old Facebook posts that showed him debating DC movies like Batman 89, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight. Even Jack Nicholson's Joker. Now, this happened 11 years ago. But let's be absolutely clear about this. I hated The Haunting when I first saw it, starring Catherine Zeta-Jones. I hate it even more today. Nothing has changed. His mind hasn't changed. This is what he thinks. People are saying, but Mickey's got every right to his opinion. Of course he has. But when we have opinions about the content that New Hollywood are putting out, we're called members of toxic fandom. Well, you've got to make your minds up. Either it's toxic to hate content, or it's just people having constructive opinions. Why is it, oh, James Gunn has every right to his opinion, but when I have an opinion, when the Snyder fans have an opinion, we're toxic? Make your minds up. So if you don't know what he said, I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but what I'm going to do is briefly explain to you what he said. So, in terms of Batman 89, he absolutely crucified it in a debate with somebody else. He basically said it was a camp movie, trying to pretend to be serious. It's not a dark movie. It was disgusting that Joe Chill doesn't kill the Waynes, and it's actually the Joker, who once was Jack Napier, played by Jack Nicholson. But he went deeper than that. He started disrespecting Jack Nicholson, one of the greatest actors of any time. He said that Jack Nicholson was playing his shining character with fucking bad clown makeup. Yes, this is how deep he was going. He was going ballistic about Keaton not being able to turn his head in the costume. So this is the kind of thing you may hear from other fans, right? I love Batman 89. He even went on to call it a boring movie. So that's the kind of thing. This is the kind of flavour of what he said. Right, let's go on. Batman Begins, one of my favourite Batman films, he says he didn't like, basically calling it out for a bad movie. But then he went even deeper. He said that The Dark Knight wasn't a classic. Not a classic. To millions of people, it's a classic. But to James Gunn, it is not. Yes, he's entitled to these opinions. Now, in a lot of ways, this was 10 years ago. Was this 2013? Just before he did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, right? So he wasn't that famous at the time. But he had done some stuff in the industry. But this is not a guy just saying, I don't like this. I don't like that. That's one thing. But he was really going for it. And the disrespect he shows to Jack Nicholson, to Tim Burton, to Christopher Nolan, who as artists and directors, he couldn't fucking lace their boots. But this is what he did to Martin Scorsese when Scorsese did that brilliant piece in the New York Post about calling the Marvel Cinematic Universe an amusement park ride. Didn't like it because it insulted New Hollywood. Well, hang on a minute. You're telling me that James Gunn is entitled to his opinion. Well, isn't Martin Scorsese as well? Please. Please. So these are opinions. His opinions that we're all agreeing he's entitled to. But he's James Gunn. He was an active creative in the industry when he posted all this, when he was having this conversation on Facebook. And as I say, it's just not merely the opinion, but it's the rudeness and the disrespect he uses. Now, he clearly says he prefers the Nolan movies, and there was only 2 of them, I think, at the time when he was speaking. So there was Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I repeat, he said The Dark Knight wasn't a classic, and he didn't like Batman Begins at all. So this is like, look, we have to be balanced here, and I want to be balanced. This channel will always be balanced. This is a comic book guy who isn't happy with the lack of accuracy, comic book accuracy, in these movies. He laments the fact that it's not Joe Chill that kills the Waynes, and it's Jack Napier, aka Jack Nicholson. Well, hang on, James Gunn. You're a fine one to talk about comic book accuracy. Do you remember the Vigilante in Peacemaker? How fucking comic book accurate was he? To be clear, I've praised Vigilante, the version of Vigilante. He was very funny, he was very dark at times, he was very disturbing at times. I liked him, and the actor was great. But that's not the point. You took Vigilante, and you decanonized him, and you did your own thing with him. What do I think of Joe Chill being replaced as the killer of the Waynes in Batman 89 and Jack Napier, aka the Joker, aka Jack Nicholson, being the killer in that movie? Well, this is what I think, because I've always found it a little bit underdeveloped that a random vagrant killed the Waynes. And when you basically have the Joker murdering the Waynes, there's something, there's more meat in the sandwich. And basically what that makes it a personal battle in Batman 89. And this is why Burton did it. But then Nolan brought back Joe Chill as the killer and actually made it quite interesting. He actually made Chill a little bit sympathetic. He doesn't really mean to kill the Waynes. It's kind of, he's reacting in a way he's trying to defend himself. He gets scared, and he even says in the court, stands up and he says, you know, there's no excuses for what I did. I like what they did. But here's the problem. Joe Chill, you know, when someone kills the hero's parents, you really want to dislike them. You really want this antagonistic battle. Now, I don't know about the comics, but in Batman Begins, Joe Chill gets wiped out by the mob. So he's not even there for Batman to deal with. And that was a good thing that Nolan did as well, because it frustrates Bruce that he didn't get to enact his revenge. So that was interesting. But Joe Chill isn't a big villain, right? And the Joker is. So that's what Burton's thinking with that is. And it's perfectly fine. I don't believe you should always go with canon. If you've got a better idea, then you should do it. Sometimes when they change canon, it's for political basis. It's for political correctness. It's to be woke. And that's different. I don't approve of that. But when you're doing it to, you know, uprise the story, like Burton did, there's nothing wrong with that. He also called Batman 89 a boring movie. Well, that doesn't surprise me from New Hollywood and these new age kids, because unless it's total action and a couple of gags, they don't want any dialogue. Dialogue is too boring for New Hollywood and this generation. And these new age critics even call it slow pacing. I always remember the reviews for Black Adam. They said it was very slow at the beginning until The Rock turns up. No. They were introducing the characters, the family. In fact, the opening sequence of Black Adam was very good because we got to know his origin story, and that was good. But that's the problem today. So I'm not surprised by James Gunn's attitude. But here's the thing. James Gunn now thinks he's superior director to Martin Scorsese. He's disrespected Jack Nicholson, Tim Burton, Christopher Nolan not so much, just said he didn't see The Dark Knight as a classic and didn't like Batman Begins, but he really was going into Tim Burton's Batman 89. Batman 89 is a classic movie. Let me try and explain to you how important Batman 89 is. That's why Gunn's comments are absolutely mystifying, disturbing, and worrying, considering he's got the keys to the DC kingdom. Utterly worrying. Because basically the way he made that film, the way he made him into the Dark Knight. Don't forget, before that, we had we had the 60 TV show, which I loved, right? But it weren't dark, it was campy, right? So Burton created a costume that really everyone else adapted into their own. They took what Burton did and made it slightly different. That's what Snyder did, that's what Reeves did. It's been in design for all those years. Burton made it possible to see the potential of making a dark, interesting, gothic Batman movie. And to be clear, Burton has a thing for gothic. Most of his things are gothic in one way or the other. But Burton is one of my favourite creatives. He's so original. He's so inventive. And to sit there on a Facebook post, I couldn't give a shit if it was 11 years ago, and put down one of our finest directors. But he went on. I forgot about this. He went on. He even said that Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, which he clearly doesn't like, is a better film than Batman 89. So it was really very disparaging of Tim Burton. So again, this is someone who clearly has read comics growing up, who loves this shit and loves these Gineas, but the disrespect he showed was really bad. I mean, I'm sure I've been disrespectful before. I'm sure I have. I always apologise about it when I calm down. But the point is, I'm someone on YouTube with barely any viewers. I ain't James Gunn. And James Gunn was already working in Hollywood when he made these comments. And to not even have the intelligence to delete this conversation is ridiculous. It was even worse, the offensive stuff about kids he was saying, not deleting that on Twitter. He's clearly not a bright man or so arrogant he thinks he can get away with anything. Even when Disney fired him, he made sure his actors and his crew fought for him because they couldn't make Guardians Volume 3 without him. He knew it. He knew he was never going to be sacked. But I believe it was something more nefarious and darker. I believe Disney goes, let's let you go for a little while, then we'll bring you back, just to calm everyone down. So I don't think it was ever a real firing, but it was interesting. He did look cancelled, and DC did come to him, and he did Suicide Squad. So that firing really brought James Gunn to DC. I'm not going to lie, I was pretty excited at the time, because I did rate the Guardians of the Galaxy films. There was only 2 at the time. And I thought he could make a film, not run everything, but I thought even if he does run everything, maybe that's interesting. Obviously, I know better now, because before even seeing Superman Legacy, it's just utterly concerning. Even before seeing him make a film about my favourite character in fiction, my favourite superhero, we're hearing this shit. And we've got to be clear about this. I'm not dumb and I'm not naive. It's clear that Snyderverse stands have been looking for dirt on him. And they found him. They found dirt on him. And it's there. And they're not going to stop because he removed Henry Cavill as Superman. Is it right for these people to be looking for this dirt? Of course not. But it's been revealed and we've got to talk about it. Because this is about films. This is about the thing that interests us. That's why I don't talk about the historical tweets that he said before. It's not that I don't think they're disgusting. And very serious. And I think there should definitely be an investigation in the people he surrounds himself with and some of the things he's accused of. Definitely. But no one's going to investigate him because we live in a corrupt world. But I'm not going to be on here calling him names and saying he's this, that, or the other, because there's not much evidence, real evidence, that he's guilty of the things some Snyder fans say he is. So that's why I don't talk about it. I don't approve of the comments. I think they're disgusting, and someone certainly should be looking into him. But apart from that, I don't want to talk about that. But these historical posts on Facebook are, as I say, dynamite. Because yes, he has every right to have these views. But the very fact that he has views of films that people love. Of course there's people out there who will agree with him about Batman 89. Many people were triggered that Joe Chill wasn't the killer and it was the Joker. It was Jack Napier. Of course. Lots of people were. I never was. I didn't care. But many people were angry because when canon is broken, people get angry. But Batman 89 is a revolutionary movie because no one made a damn live-action Batman movie in those terms cinematically before Burton did it. Burton pulled it off. Gunn also hated the soundtrack. Is he talking about the actual, the composed soundtrack? Or is he talking about the soundtrack from Prince? Because if he hates Prince's music, this is the guy who fucking does mixtapes. Because I don't like radio music in films. I never liked the fact that Prince's songs were on Batman 89, but it didn't make me hate the film. It's something WB decided to promote the movie, and it fucking worked. Prince made money, his record company made money, everyone made money on that. It worked for the marketing of the film. So it was a good decision, but it's not something I like. I like a good, composed score. I'm old-fashioned like that, and I like the music to be all over the movie as well. But there was some brilliant music in itself. There was some brilliant composed music. They give Batman a great theme. It's brilliant. Batman 89 is a great achievement because, as I say, it shows people you could make a live-action Batman movie and make it gothic and make it dark and make it violent at times. The Batmobile, the Batcave, brilliant stuff. Nicholson's performance wasn't just him playing the shining character. He was playing his version of the Joker. He felt like the Joker. He smelt like the Joker in terms of his tone. He felt like the Joker. It was a great fucking performance. And the laugh was brilliant. So how James Gunn can sit there and put down the performance of one of the greatest actors in our industry's history is beyond me. And this is serious. This is concerning. Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion. We've been through that. But it's a very, very worrying opinion. It really is for me. And even though I don't agree with the methods used to unearth this information, and I've tried to be as balanced as possible, this is the problem. This is what James Gunn's ego. So let's see. He's put down 3 Batman films that he believes are beneath him. Well, he's going to be producing his own Batman movie called Brave and the Bold, which looks like it will be very comic book accurate. Good stuff. So let's see what you can do, James, if you actually ever get to do it, because I'm quite sure he will at least be penning the story for Brave and the Bold, and someone else will pen the screenplay, and obviously Machete is supposed to be directing it. Machete won't end up directing it. It was another lie told by Gunn and DC Studios and whoever else is hiding behind the scenes, probably Toby Emmerich. They said that to amp up the Flash movie. It didn't work. So really, in rounding my opinions up about what's been revealed about James Gunn, it doesn't matter it was 11 years ago. He hasn't changed his mind about what he thinks. The way he executes his opinions on Facebook all those years ago are very disrespectful. There were better ways of him doing it. But more importantly, yes, he's entitled to those thoughts, but his thoughts worry me. Because at the end of the day, Burton and Nolan took Batman and made him their own. And that's why they were successful at adapting him. I've really wanted to take a deep dive into David Ayer and all his comments about the Ayer cut for days, because he really is on Twitter and he's being attacked by fans and he's coming back with great responses. Someone was going on and on about, these DC movies failing, and really air Machine Gun a great response. You know, maybe if they allow people, auteur directors, to do their things, then things wouldn't be flopping. Maybe they'll reiterate that in this article, because this is an article from Variety, and I really want to read it if this bloody phone lets me, because it's so good. And it's such an interesting situation, because this guy is the stark contrast of James Gunn. At the end of the day, now he supported Gunn. He supported Gunn because Gunn has the keys to the kingdom and can release the haircut for him. I don't trust James Gunn to do that. Do you? Anyway, let's get into this. David Ayer says Suicide Squad broke him. Hollywood is like watching someone you love get fucked by someone you hate. I love that analogy. Normally, it's someone watching me who hates me shag their wives. Great stuff, though. I love the reactions. Anyway, you'll never know if I'm joking. David Ayer appeared on the latest episode of John Berthnall's Real Ones podcast and cited Suicide Squad as his biggest heartbreak in Hollywood. The director has been vocal where the last 7 years about the 2016 theatrical cut of Suicide Squad not being his preferred version of the film. That was widely panned by critics, but Ayer has long maintained that the studio changed the film's entire tone from his original concept, and they did. And they brought in a music video editing company to edit the movie, and you can tell. Now, personally, I quite like the theatrical cut, but I know what David Ayer was going to give us would have been miles and miles better, and that's the film I wanted to see. Let's be clear about that. Hollywood, I tell people, is like watching someone you love get fucked by someone you hate. Ayer said when asked about his biggest Hollywood heartbreak. The big one is Suicide Squad. That shit broke me. That handed me my ass. Come right off Fury, right? I had the town in my hand. Could have done anything, and I did do anything. Ayer continued, and I'll go on this journey with Suicide Squad. And the same thing, authentic, truthful, let's do all the rehearsal, let's really get in each other's souls. Let's create this amazing collaborative thing, right? And then Deadpool opened, right? And they never tested Batman v Superman, so they are expecting a different result. And then they got hammered by all the critics. Then it's like, okay, we're going to turn David Ayer's dark, soulful movie into a fucking comedy now. It's interesting, isn't it? Because David sees this as kind of a Deadpool thing, as a comedy. Is there many gags in the theatrical cut of the Suicide Squad movie, the first one? I'm not too sure if they're trying to be funny. Certainly the kind of the colour palette's a lot brighter. There are gags in there, but mostly it's still a serious film. But you can understand why he's frustrated. Ayer continues to use social media to advocate for the release of his Suicide Squad Director's Cut, dubbed the Ayer Cut. In a recent post on X, the director informed his fans that new DC Studios boss James Gunn told him the Ayer Cut would have its time to be shared. Ayer provided no further information because he can't, and I don't trust James Gunn to do that. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. All I know is my unseen film plays much better than the studio release, Ayer wrote. The interest in my cut being shown seems real and organic, and Gunn told me it would have its time to be shared. He absolutely deserves to launch his DC universe. Listen to this bullshit though. I love David, but listen to this bullshit. Deserves to launch his DC universe without more drama about old projects. In a way, I'm chained to his thing. I'm riding a tiger here and navigating this situation the best I can. Life is a very strange journey. Right, David, let's be clear. James Gunn doesn't need to leave your Ayer Cut to one side and release his stuff first. There's no need for him to do that because one isn't connected to the other. Oh yes, sorry, I forgot. Because we're not doing a clean reboot of the DCEU. So it's connected. So in a way, it is connected. That's their problem, though. Release the damn Ayer Cut. There's no justification why they shouldn't. Despite its critical bashing, Air's Suicide Squad was a box office hit with $747 million worldwide. Yes, it was great box office. The film starred Will Smith and introduced Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. James Gunn directed his own Suicide Squad movie and pretty much killed everyone apart from Harley Quinn off that David cast. Utterly problematic. And that's the article. So, you know, David, as I say, has been very, very vocal about this situation on Twitter. And he's obviously been on this podcast, which I wasn't aware of as well, Joe Berthnall's podcast. Very, very interesting stuff. So they're allowing him to be vocal about this. But for me, I can't gauge if the studio's actually interested in releasing this movie. The position that Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery are in, they're very desperate. Like Disney. I mean, Disney are cancelling stuff to raise money. Disney are in deeper shit than Warner Brothers Discovery. I remember having a debate on my live and someone saying to me, Disney won't go out of business before Warner Brothers Discovery. Everyone has this illusion of Disney being this strong. You've got to put that out of your minds. It's over. They are in so much trouble. They don't know what to do next. But so are WB Discovery. So it will be to their advantage to release this movie. Releasing this movie doesn't cost them anything. It's done. It's ready. It doesn't cost them anything. You don't want to market it, don't market it. Now, the way they could do it is release it on Max and release it on physical and digital media immediately. Do that, right? The best thing, actually, if they want to raise money, is sell it physically. There's not much money in it for them, really, on streaming. There's no money in streaming. Everyone's worked out now there's no money in streaming. And Uncle Mick told you that a very long fucking time ago. Literally, you pay your subscription, then you watch stuff, right? Let me talk very slowly to the people who think I'm wrong about this. When I watch something on Netflix, they don't make any money. When I watch the next thing on Netflix, they don't make any money. How they make money is, right, the more subscribers they've got, the more sponsorships. And they make money like that. They need subscribers. So does Max, so does D+. Without subscribers, you don't make money. It's not like cinema, because every time I go to the cinema, I have to pay to watch something. I just pay once a month to watch Netflix and Amazon, Prime Video, and D+ and the others, right? And Now TV. That's how it works. It's totally different. So when people start bragging about high or low views on a streaming show or a streaming movie, yes, if you don't like something and you're glad it's failing, or you love something and you're glad it's getting a lot of views, that's great. But views don't make money. It just like the old broadcast network days. It's about ratings, whether your thing survives or not, or your movie gets a sequel. That's the same thing. But this is the problem with streaming. There's only one way to make money. And that's why they're thinking about making all this commercial now. But I don't think the future is streaming. Streaming is a very good tech, right? But I think ultimately it will end up being kind of a glorified, catch-up thing like iPlayer in the future. But the entertainment industry thought this was the big thing that would make them money. They move away from movie theatres, move away from broadcast networks, no studios, no physical places. Just make something and broadcast it. And it hasn't worked out. And I think ultimately we will return to the old broadcast network that works out better. Because even commercializing streaming isn't the same as commercializing, the old broadcast network. It's different. It's easier to commercialize television, old-fashioned television, than it is to commercialize streaming. But going back to David Ayer, I think the best bet here is that someone wants to make some quick money, release the haircut on physical media. What happened to David was totally out of order. We know the history of it. We know what happened to the Snyderverse. It's time. But I don't think it's going to happen. That's my opinion right now. I don't see them releasing the haircut. Yes, he's being very, very vocal. But I've never heard James Gunn involuntarily, say, yeah, we're going to release it. We'd love to release it. He's kind of said, when he's been pushed by fans, he's mentioned it. But a guy who was really looking to release this, would make a proper statement and say, yes, David is a great guy, he's been so supportive, absolutely, we want to release his cut. He hasn't really ever done that. He doesn't seem like a man who is that, motivated to release the haircut. And I don't believe he ever will. And if he's told Air, as Air said, that his haircut will be shared, he's lying.